New Stripe City, a YouTube channel for diehard Bengals fans. I'm your host, Ace Boogie. If you're new here, love the Bengals, be sure to subscribe. Just want to get into a new matchup that we have this week. Obviously, the Cincinnati Bengals are taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I do this every week. I'm here to break down the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And it all starts with Jameis Winston. I've watched Jameis Winston closely. I used to live in Tallahassee when he played at Florida State, delivered a championship, and it was almost like the entire state of Florida wanted him to go to the Buccaneers. In my opinion, Jameis Winston is a pretty good quarterback. However, he has shown the propensity to try to force plays, and as a result, he ends up throwing a lot of turnovers. So I think that that's his downfall. Similar to his last year at FSU, he had a lot of turnovers, but he has had plays where he's raised the level of his team, but he's also caused his team issues. So, Jameis Winston, key to the Bengals defense will be to hope that he takes some chances in the pass game, and if he does, then you have to convert on those turnovers. Moving on, they have an explosive offense. This is the number one offense in terms of net yardage in the league, and it starts with Mike Evans. Mike Evans is argued by some to be a top 5 wide receiver. He's that talented. This guy is huge. He's a guy that just goes up and gets it. He's Jameis's favorite target, and it's definitely going to be a problem for our secondary this weekend. They also have Deshaun Jackson. Deshaun Jackson, there's not much that needs to be said there. One of the most explosive deep threats in the NFL. His chemistry with Jameis isn't as good as it was with Ryan Fitzpatrick, but with him and Mike Evans together, they are a very dynamic duo. Mike Evans is kind of the strong jump ball guy, and Deshaun is more of the fast guy that can take the top off of any defense. So this will be another hard task. This might be one of the hardest wide receiver cores that the Bengals have come across this season. You also have Chris Godwin in the slot. Chris Godwin is a guy that I was huge on coming into the draft a couple years ago out of Penn State. He's a very reliable receiver. He has some great quickness, great hands, great concentration. Another guy to keep an eye on that could hurt the Bengals. You also have Adam Humphries, who's a smaller receiver, but he's still able to return kicks and also field passes from the slot position. He's actually pretty good as well. I'd probably compare him to Alex Erickson of the Bengals. The offensive line isn't the best. They have Donovan Smith, who's probably their best lineman. Some of the other guys are kind of trash, not going to lie there. But they get the job done. The running back position has also been a question mark for them for the last couple of years. Even though they had Doug Martin, Doug was not able to bounce back there, and as a result, they kind of moved on. And they kind of have a Band-Aid on the position right now. Even though they drafted Ronald Jones in the second round last year, or this year, they still have a Band-Aid over that, and that Band-Aid is Peyton Barber, who was a college free agent from 2016. They also have Jaquiz Rogers, but Peyton Barber has not done much of anything this year, has ran close to 300 yards with 0 touchdowns, so the running game has been non-existent for them. But this will be a week where we will have to try to keep their running game that's non-existent off of the ground, especially with Vontaze Burfict possibly being out. Now, on defense, they have been known to have one of the worst defenses in the NFL. They went ahead and fired their defensive coordinator, Mike Smith, which that made sense. And this was because the Bucs actually made a couple of moves this offseason to improve in that area, acquiring Jason Pierre-Paul, also signing Vinny Curry. So this was a team that they also drafted Vita Vea, who a lot of Bengals fans wanted. These were moves that were supposed to be made to revamp this defense, and they have just not lived up to it. And unfortunately, they've also lost their best linebacker, Quan Alexander, Pro Bowler, to injury as well. But they still have some bright spots there. Jason Pierre-Paul is having a Jason Pierre-Paul type of year. He's got 6 sacks so far. They also have Gerald McCoy is actually out, so Gerald McCoy is actually probably their best defensive player. He's going to be out this game. Vinny Curry didn't practice. I'm assuming that he will also be out. So they might actually be going against Carl Nassib or Noah Spence. Noah Spence was a guy who just has never lived up to the hype. And then you look at some of their linebackers outside of them not having their main linebacker. They do have Levante David still, who's a pretty decent will linebacker. When you look at the secondary, Brent Grimes stands out. He's been the guy there for a while. They're going through some injuries in the secondary. Ryan Smith is starting now, Devontae Harris, so a couple of guys that are kind of no names. But they do have Justin Evans at the safety position, who was a guy that they took out of the second round a couple of years ago. So overall, the Bucs present a very solid, top-heavy offensive team, as you can see. And they have some talent on defense, but this is going to be a game in which the Bengals need to try to create turnovers because this offense is near the top of the league in terms of talent and will definitely run the Bengals out of the building if they do not have a response for them. So let me know what you guys' comments are. As usual, I'll leave you with a who day, all day, every day, and especially on Sunday.